The chamber was silent except for the soft hum of translation devices. High Arbiter Velcross stood at the center of the Galactic Council, his forearms trembling. Around him, representatives from 200 species watched with fear in their eyes. Eyes that had once looked at humanity with disgust, now held only desperation. "The vote is concluded," Velcross said, his voice barely steady. "We will request assistance from Earth." The words tasted like poison in his mouth. 50 years ago, when humans first stumbled into galactic space with their crude fusion drives, the Council had laughed. They called Earth a death world. They said humans were barbaric survivors from a planet that tried to kill them every day. Too much gravity, too many diseases, predators everywhere, weather that could freeze or boil a being in hours. The Council had given humanity a simple message: stay in your corner of space. You are too dangerous, too primitive. You will never be one of us. Now, those same council members begged for mercy from an enemy they could not stop. Ambassador Maria Chen sat in Earth's observation chamber on the station's outer ring. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had spent 30 years trying to win respect for humanity, 30 years of closed doors and condescending smiles, 30 years of being called Deathworlder like it was a curse. Her communication panel blinked. An official council transmission. She almost ignored it. Almost. Ambassador Chen. Velcross appeared on her screen. His proud face looked hollow. The Galactic Council requires, we request, humanity's military assistance. Maria said nothing. She simply watched him struggle with the words. An enemy has emerged from the void beyond charted space, he continued. We call them Devourers. They consume everything. Entire star systems vanish. Billions dead. Our combined fleet engaged them at the Theta Sanctuary. He paused. His hands shook. All 73 ships were destroyed in 18 minutes. Maria felt cold. The combined fleet was supposed to be invincible. 10,000 years of peace had made it more ceremonial than functional, but 73 capital ships destroyed in minutes? How many fleets do they have? She asked quietly. We have detected 47 separate battle groups. Each contains hundreds of vessels. Velcross looked down. We have 8 fleets remaining. We estimate 3 months before they reach the Council core worlds. 3 months, Maria repeated. And you come to us now? After 50 years of keeping us locked out? Yes. Velcross met her eyes. Yes, we do, because we were fools. We built a civilization on peace and forgot what war truly means. You humans, you never forgot. Your planet spent 10,000 years teaching you war. Every day was survival. Every generation faced extinction and refused to die. He took a breath. We need Deathworlders now. We need humanity's help. Maria leaned back in her chair. Part of her wanted to laugh. Part of her wanted to cry. Part of her wanted to simply close the channel and let the Council face what was coming alone. But she was human, and humans did not let genocide happen if they could stop it. I will forward your request to Earth, she said. But understand something, High Arbiter. If we agree to help, there will be conditions. Humanity will not be your disposable soldiers. We will not be your attack dogs that you throw away after the danger passes. We understand, Velcross said. No, Maria interrupted. I do not think you do. Not yet. She closed the channel. 3 days later, Maria stood in the United Earth Government chambers in Geneva. The room was filled with representatives from every nation, every settlement across Earth's solar system. Admiral James Kovac sat in the military section, his weathered face unreadable. The debate had raged for hours. Some wanted revenge for the disrespect. Others wanted to help immediately. Some suggested negotiating for advantages. A few suggested letting the Council fall and claiming their territory. Afterward, then the Council transmitted footage from the Devourer attacks. The room fell silent as the hologram showed entire cities being consumed. The Devourers were massive ships that looked like a fusion of metal and flesh. They landed on planets and began eating. Not just killing, eating, converting matter into fuel. Children, homes, forests, oceans, everything vanished into those terrible ships. When the footage ended, no one spoke. Finally, Admiral Kovac stood. We help, he said simply, not because they deserve it, not because we owe them anything. We help because that, he pointed at the frozen image of a city being consumed, is an abomination. We help because if we do not, We will have to look at ourselves in the mirror and know we could have stopped this genocide and chose not to. He looked around the room. But we do not go as their servants. We go as their equals. We demand full council membership. We demand access to all hierarchy technology. We demand respect. And we demand they understand that once we commit to this war, we fight it our way, the human way. The vote was unanimous. Ambassador Chen delivered Earth's terms to Velcross personally. She watched his face as he read them, saw him flinch at the demands, saw him swallow his pride. Agreed, he whispered. All terms accepted. Maria nodded. She opened a channel to Earth. Admiral Kovac, you have authorization. Mobilize the first expeditionary fleet. Kovac's face appeared on screen. Behind him, through the viewport, Maria could see ships powering up. 200 warships built for a military doctrine the galaxy had never seen. Ships designed by a species that understood war in its bones. Understood, Ambassador, Kovac said. His eyes were hard. We will depart within the week. Tell the Council that help is coming. He paused, then added, They wanted Deathworlders. Time to show them what that really means. The channel closed. Maria looked at Velcross, who stared at the fleet mobilizing in the distance. What have I done? The High Arbiter whispered. Maria did not answer. She did not know if he would like the truth. The first expeditionary fleet hung in space above Earth like a steel constellation. 200 ships of war, each one carrying the lessons humanity had learned through 10,000 years of conflict. They were not elegant like hierarchy vessels. They were brutal and efficient, made to take damage and keep fighting. Admiral James Kovac stood on the bridge of the EDF Indomitable, his flagship. Through the viewport he could see Earth below, blue and beautiful and deadly, the planet that had forged humanity in fire. Final status report, he said to his operations officer. All ships report ready, sir. Personnel at 98% capacity. Weapon systems green. We have full fuel and ammunition loads, Kovac nodded. He was 60 years old, with gray hair and scars that told stories he never shared. His eyes had seen things that would break most people. He had fought in the Resource Wars, the Mars Rebellion, and countless smaller conflicts. War was not glory to him. It was necessary work. Sir, you have an incoming transmission from Geneva, his communication officer said. Ambassador Chen, Maria's face appeared on screen. She looked exhausted. Admiral, the Council has transferred all agreed-upon technology and data. You have complete star charts, Devourer battle recordings, and hierarchy military protocols. She paused. They also sent a message. Velcross wants you to know they are grateful. Kovac's expression did not change. Tell him gratitude is not needed. Results are, he straightened. We depart in 1 hour. Chen, make sure the Council understands something. We are not coming to defend their worlds. We are coming to end this threat. Permanently. That means we fight by human rules, not theirs. They understand, Admiral. Or at least they think they do. After Chen's face disappeared, Kovac's second-in-command approached. Captain Sarah Okonkwo was a tall woman from Nigeria, sharp-eyed and brilliant. She commanded the frigate EDF Relentless, and had volunteered to serve as his tactical advisor for this mission. Admiral, I have been studying the hierarchy battle recordings, she said. Their tactics are inadequate. Explain. They fight like they are performing a ritual, sir. Perfect formations, predetermined engagement ranges. They warn enemies before firing. They stop fighting to offer surrender terms. Okonkwo shook her head. They have not fought a real war in 10,000 years. They have forgotten what war actually is. Kovac looked out at his fleet. Ships named Indomitable, Relentless, Vengeance, Defiant. Names that meant something to humans. Then we will remind them, he said quietly. The fleet jumped to hyperspace 6 hours later. The journey to the Kepler system, where hierarchy forces were making their last stand, would take 2 weeks. During those weeks, Kovac drilled his forces relentlessly. Boarding action training, damage control exercises, tactical simulations that assumed massive casualties and required fighting on anyway. The crews grumbled but obeyed. They understood what was coming. On the Relentless, Captain Okonkwo gathered her marine contingent. Listen carefully, she told them. We are about to enter combat against an enemy that sees us as food. They will not take prisoners. They will not offer mercy. If we lose, every human world becomes a target. She let that sink in. But we are not going to lose. Because we are human. We come from a planet that spent millions of years trying to kill us, and we survived anyway. We learned to hunt predators. We learned to endure disasters. We learned that survival means being willing to do whatever is necessary. One of the younger Marines raised his hand. Captain, the hierarchy survivors say the Devourers cannot be beaten in close combat. They are too strong. Okonkwo smiled. It was not a comforting smile. The hierarchy never fought in close combat. We do. We have been fighting hand-to-hand since we lived in caves. The Devourers are about to learn why humans are apex predators. The Marines cheered. When the fleet emerged from hyperspace at the Kepler system, they found chaos. 6 hierarchy ships were fleeing from 3 massive Devourer vessels. The Devourers looked like nightmares made real. Organic metal hulls that pulsed like living things. Weapons that tore ships apart with focused gravity beams. Sir, the hierarchy ships are requesting immediate assistance, the communication officer reported. They say the Devourers are about to destroy them. Kovac watched the tactical display. By hierarchy doctrine, his fleet should spend hours analyzing the enemy, finding optimal engagement range, formulating a careful strategy. Humanity did not fight that way. All ships battle formation, Kovac ordered. Advance to weapons range. Prepare nuclear missiles, railgun batteries, and boarding parties. Okonkwo glanced at him. Boarding parties, sir? Against those things? Yes, we need to know what we are fighting. That means getting inside one. Kovac's voice was cold and calm. And, Captain, once we are in range, all ships will open fire simultaneously. Full weapons release. No warnings. No mercy. The hierarchy observers on the Indomitable's bridge looked shocked. One of them, a small insect-like being named Chitter, spoke up. Admiral, surely you will attempt communication first. Perhaps negotiate? This is standard protocol. Kovac looked at him. That thing down there is eating a planet. You do not negotiate with a disease. You eliminate it. He turned back to the viewport. All ships weapons free. Hit them with everything. The human fleet opened fire. Missiles streaked through space, hundreds of them. Railgun rounds traveling at significant fractions of light speed slammed into Devourer hulls. Laser batteries carved glowing lines across their organic armor. The attack was overwhelming and brutal. The 3 Devourer ships tried to respond, but they had never faced an enemy that attacked like this. No formations. No predetermined patterns. Just raw, directed violence designed to kill as efficiently as possible. 2 Devourers exploded within the first 5 minutes. The 3rd tried to flee. Frigate group pursue and disable, Kovac ordered. Captain Okonkwo, that one is yours. Board it. I want specimens and intelligence. Yes, sir, Okonkwo said, grinning. The Relentless and 4 other frigates chased the wounded Devourer down. They hit it with electromagnetic pulse weapons that disrupted its systems. Then Okonkwo and 40 Marines launched an armored boarding craft. Chitter watched all of this with what might have been horror. Admiral, this is not how civilized species conduct warfare. Kovac turned to face him fully. Civilized species are about to go extinct. We are here to make sure that does not happen. Watch and learn, Chitter. This is how Deathworlders fight wars. On the tactical display, the boarding craft latched onto the Devourer's hull and began cutting through. Okonkwo to Indomitable. Her voice crackled over the communication channel. We are inside. Atmosphere is toxic. Gravity is erratic. We are proceeding. Kovac listened to the sounds of combat through the channel. Gunfire, explosions, Okonkwo shouting orders. Then silence. Indomitable, this is Okonkwo. We have control of a significant portion of the vessel. Casualties are light. Sending data now. Kovac allowed himself a small smile. Well done, Captain. Extract and return to formation. As the Relentless pulled away, the disabled Devourer suddenly exploded. Apparently they had self-destruct mechanisms, but Okonkwo and her Marines had already escaped with everything they needed. The rescued hierarchy ships slowly approached the human fleet. Their commanders sent messages of amazement and fear in equal measure. Belcross himself appeared on communication channels from his distant command center. Admiral Kovac, your tactics were effective, but I must question the brutality. Surely there are more civilized approaches. Kovac looked at the High Arbiter's image for a long moment. High Arbiter, you asked for help from Deathworlders. This is what that means. We fight to win. Not to look good. Not to follow ancient protocols, to win. If that troubles you, then you should have found someone else. He cut the channel. Okonkwo returned to the Indomitable 6 hours later. She carried data chips and biological samples. Her armor was scorched and dented. "Admiral, you need to see what we found." In the analysis room, she displayed footage from inside the Devourer ship. It was horrifying. Organic technology merged with machine, corridors that pulsed like veins. And in the central chamber they had found processing centers where matter was being broken down and converted to fuel. "They are not just conquering," Okonkwo said quietly. "They are consuming everything. Every planet they touch becomes dead rock." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, examined the samples with shaking hands. "Admiral, these creatures are driven by pure hunger. They see all organic matter as food. They will not stop. Cannot stop. Not until they consume everything or are destroyed." Kovac stood silent for a moment. Then he activated fleet-wide communications. "All hands, this is Admiral Kovac. I am transmitting the data from our boarding action. I want every person in this fleet to see what we are fighting. See what will happen to Earth, to Mars, to Europa, to every human world if we fail." He paused. "We did not ask for this war, but we will finish it. Prepare for extended operations. We are going hunting." Across the fleet, thousands of human warriors watched the footage and understood. This was not a war for territory or resources. This was a war for survival, for existence itself. And humanity had never lost a war for survival. The human fleet moved through hierarchy space like a storm made of steel. 6 weeks had passed since the Kepler system engagement. In that time, Admiral Kovac had transformed his expeditionary force into a hunting pack. They did not wait for devourers to attack. They tracked them down. The hierarchy military observers embedded with the fleet watched with growing unease as humans redefined warfare. Captain Okonkwo's frigate group specialized in rapid strikes. Admiral Kovac's heavy battleships served as hammers that crushed anything that stood still. And everywhere, human marines practiced boarding actions with an enthusiasm that disturbed the peaceful hierarchy species. Chitter, the insect-like observer assigned to the Indomitable, approached Admiral Kovac on the bridge. "Admiral, I have been reviewing your tactical doctrine," Chitter said carefully. "Your methods are effective, but I must ask, do your people ever consider avoiding conflict, seeking diplomatic solutions?" Kovac did not look away from his tactical display. "Chitter, you cannot negotiate with a forest fire. You can only put it out." He glanced at the observer. "The Devourers see us as fuel. There is no diplomacy there, only survival." "But surely the cost in lives is acceptable compared to the alternative," Kovac interrupted. "We have lost 800 personnel so far. That is 800 families mourning, 800 funerals. But if we hesitate, if we fight carefully, this war will last years. Millions will die, maybe billions." He turned to face Chitter fully. "I choose 800 today over millions tomorrow. That is command. That is war, and that is why your people asked for humans." Chitter said nothing. There was nothing to say. The fleet's next target was the Sigma outpost, a mining colony under Devourer attack. Intelligence suggested 3 Devourer ships were currently feeding on the planet's mineral-rich crust while 10,000 colonists hidden underground. "Shelters. Tactical analysis," Kovac ordered as they approached. 3 capital-class Devourers on the surface, his operations officer reported. "They are focused on consumption. Sensors indicate they have not detected us yet." "Good. Okonkwo, can your Marines extract those colonists?" Captain Okonkwo studied the tactical display. She had been promoted to Commodore after the Kepler engagement but still commanded her beloved Relentless. "Yes, sir. If you keep the Devourers busy, we can land extraction teams, but we need time. You will have it." Kovac turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare orbital bombardment. Target all 3 enemy vessels. Nuclear warheads, maximum yield." The hierarchy observers looked shocked. "Admiral, nuclear weapons on a colony world?" One of them gasped. "The radiation will be temporary," Kovac said flatly. "The colonists are underground and shielded. The Devourers are on the surface. We use the tools that work." He activated fleet communications. "All ships, this is Kovac. We have civilians down there counting on us. The enemy is distracted. We hit them now, we hit them hard, and we do not stop until nothing moves. Okonkwo, launch extraction teams the moment the bombs clear." "Yes, sir," Okonkwo replied, already moving toward the launch bay. The human fleet dropped out of high orbit at combat speeds. Missile bays opened. For 3 seconds, the Devourers continued feeding, unaware of death falling from the sky. Then the nuclear warhead struck. The explosions were visible from orbit, 3 massive fireballs that consumed the Devourer vessels entirely. The creatures barely had time to react before being vaporized. Okonkwo's extraction shuttles dove through the radiation and smoke. Her Marines moved with practiced efficiency, locating the shelter entrances and beginning evacuation procedures, but one of the Devourers had not been completely destroyed. "Commodore, sensors detect movement in Crater 3, her tactical officer warned. "Partial Devourer vessel is still active." Okonkwo checked her scanners. The thing was half melted but still trying to move toward the shelter entrances. "Trying to feed. Marines, we have contact. Form up. Heavy weapons forward." She led 40 Marines toward the wounded Devourer. They moved in tactical formation, weapons ready. The environment suits they wore protected them from radiation, toxic atmosphere, and extreme temperatures. Standard equipment for species from a death world. The Devourer was massive, even half destroyed. As they approached, sections of its hull split open. Smaller forms emerged, biomechanical soldier organisms, each one the size of a human, with blade-like appendages and what looked like organic projectile weapons. "Contact, contact," one of the Marines shouted as the Devourer soldiers attacked. The battle was brutal and close. Devourer soldiers were fast and strong, but human Marines had trained for this. They worked in pairs, covering each other. When a Devourer soldier charged, Marines would sidestep and fire point-blank into vulnerable joints. Okonkwo found herself face-to-face with one of the creatures. It swung a blade arm at her head. She ducked, stepped inside its reach, and fired her plasma carbine directly into what she hoped was its central mass. The creature exploded in a spray of organic matter. "Keep moving," she shouted. "Protect the shelters." For 20 minutes, humans and Devourer soldiers fought in radioactive ruins. The Marines took casualties. Private Chen lost an arm to a blade strike but kept fighting, firing one-handed until medical teams dragged her to safety. Sergeant Okoro was killed when 3 Devourer soldiers overwhelmed his position, but he held them long enough for his squad to flank and destroy them. Finally, the last Devourer soldier fell. Okonkwo stood among the bodies, breathing hard. Her armor was scored and dented. Around her, Marines tended wounded comrades and checked the fallen. "Commodore, all civilians are loaded," her second-in-command reported. "We can lift off whenever you are ready." Okonkwo looked at the dead Devourer soldiers, then at her own dead, 7 Marines who would never go home. "Mark this location," she said quietly. "When this war is over, we will return and recover our people properly. They deserve that." "Yes, ma'am." The shuttles lifted off, carrying 10,000 grateful colonists and the bodies of 7 human warriors. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Kovac received Okonkwo's report. 7 dead, 14 wounded, 10,000 saved. The hierarchy observers thought it was a great victory. Kovac knew better. He knew those 7 names, knew they had families, knew each death was a universe of grief. But he also knew they had saved 10,000 lives. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from High Arbiter Velcross," his communication officer said. Velcross appeared on screen. For the first time, Kovac saw something like respect in the alien's eyes. "Admiral Kovac, your actions at Sigma Outpost have not gone unnoticed. The Council wishes to express gratitude for saving the colonists." "Gratitude is not needed," Kovac replied. "But if the Council truly wants to help, we need intelligence. Where are the Devourer staging areas? Where do they come from?" Velcross hesitated. "We do not know. They appeared from the void. We have been unable to track them to a source." "Then we will find it ourselves," Kovac said. "Because if we only fight defensively, this war never ends." He cut the transmission and turned to Dr. Tanaka, who had been studying the biological samples from every engagement. "Doctor, what have you learned?" Tanaka looked exhausted. She had barely slept in weeks. Obsessed with understanding the enemy, "Admiral, the Devourers are not natural organisms. They are engineered, created for one purpose, consumption. But I found something interesting in their neural structures. They communicate, and that communication has a source, meaning there is a central intelligence coordinating them. A hive mind, perhaps, or a command center." Tanaka pulled up a holographic map. "Based on the communication patterns I have detected, I believe the Devourers have a homeworld, or something like it." Kovac studied the map. "Can you locate it?" "Given time and more samples, yes. But Admiral, if we find their homeworld," Tanaka trailed off. "We destroy it," Kovac finished. "Completely. Permanently. This enemy does not understand surrender, so we remove them from existence. Chitter, listening nearby, spoke softly. That would be genocide, Admiral. Kovac looked at him. Yes, it would be, and I will carry that burden for the rest of my life. His voice was hard. But I will not allow these things to consume the galaxy. I will not let them eat Earth. I will not sacrifice billions for moral comfort. He activated fleet communications. All ships, this is Admiral Kovac, new mission parameters. We are no longer simply defending hierarchy space. We are going on the offensive. We are going to find where these things come from and we are going to end them. He paused. I know what I am asking. I know the cost. Some of you will not survive. Some of you will do things that haunt you forever. But if we do not do this, everything we know will be consumed. Earth, Mars, Europa, every human colony, every hierarchy world, all of it. Across the fleet, thousands of humans listened. So we fight. Not because we want to, not because we enjoy it. We fight because no one else can. We fight because we are human, and humans do not surrender when extinction comes calling. In the silence that followed, every ship in the fleet signaled acknowledgement. Commodore Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the Relentless and looked at her crew. They were tired. Some were wounded. All were afraid. But they were ready. Sir, her tactical officer said quietly, what are we becoming? Okonkwo thought about that question for a long time before answering. We are becoming what we have always been, she said finally. The species that refuses to die. The species that will do anything to protect its own. She looked out at the stars. We are becoming Deathworlders. 6 months had transformed the war. The human fleet had grown to 400 ships as Earth sent reinforcements. But that growth came at terrible cost. Half of the original expeditionary force was gone. Some ships destroyed, some so damaged they had to return home. And everywhere the casualty list grew longer. Admiral Kovac stood in the Indomitable's memorial chamber, looking at names carved into black stone. 3,217 names. 3,000 human lives spent to save trillions. He wondered if future generations would think it was worth it. Admiral, we have new intelligence, Commodore Okonkwo said from the doorway. She looked older now. They all did. War-aged people in ways that had nothing to do with time. Kovac turned away from the memorial wall. Show me. In the tactical center, Dr. Tanaka had assembled data from 50 Devourer engagements. The holographic display showed star charts marked with attack patterns, communication intercepts, and biological analysis. I have located the source, Tanaka said without preamble. The Devourer hive world. It is here in the Abyss sector. She highlighted a region of space beyond hierarchy borders. A void where stars were sparse and ancient. How certain are you? Kovac asked. 93%. Every Devourer communication we have intercepted points to this region. And Admiral, the reading suggests something massive, not just a planet. Something much larger. Kovac studied the map. The Abyss sector was 3 weeks away at maximum speed, and between the fleet and their target lay dozens of Devourer-controlled systems. If we commit to this, there is no turning back, he said quietly. We would be driving deep into enemy territory with no support. No resupply. No retreat. Yes, sir, Okonkwo agreed. But if we do not strike at their source, this war continues forever. We can kill 1,000 Devourers and more will come. We have to cut off the head. Kovac looked at his officers, young and old, men and women from every nation on Earth. All of them exhausted, all of them afraid, all of them determined. Prepare the fleet, he said. We move in 48 hours, and send a message to the Hierarchy Council. Tell them what we are planning. Tell them if they want to help, now is the time. High Arbiter Velcross received the message in his council chambers. Around him, representatives from 200 species debated frantically. The humans are insane, one representative said. They plan to attack the Devourer homeworld with only 400 ships? It is suicide, perhaps, Velcross said quietly. But they have accomplished things we thought impossible. They have pushed the Devourers back, given us time to evacuate endangered worlds, saved billions of our people. He stood, all 4 arms spread wide. They have bled for us. The least we can do is stand with them at the end. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some species wanted to help. Others feared committing their few remaining ships. Still others suggested abandoning human space if the offensive failed. But slowly a few voices emerged. species that had been saved by human intervention, colonies that still existed because human marines had held the line, families that had futures because humans had chosen to fight. "We will send ships," said Ambassador Kresh, whose people had lost 3 worlds but survived because of human defense. "Not many, but we will send what we have," others joined. 20 ships, then 40, then 60. It was not much compared to what the hierarchy once commanded, but it was something. Velcross sent his response to Admiral Kovac. "We will meet you at the rally point." And Admiral, "Thank you for everything." The combined fleet assembled at the edge of hierarchy space, 400 human ships and 63 hierarchy vessels. It looked powerful. It looked brave. It looked impossibly small for what they were about to attempt. Among the hierarchy volunteers was a young warrior named Lothar. He was from a species called the Velk, tall and graceful with 4 arms and golden eyes. His people had been peaceful for centuries, but his family had been killed in a devourer attack, and he had volunteered to serve aboard a human ship. He found himself assigned to the Relentless as part of Commodore Okonkwo's Marine contingent. The human Marines had not known what to make of him at first. An alien who wanted to fight alongside them, who wanted to learn human tactics. But Lothar learned quickly. He studied human close combat techniques, learned to use human weapons. Most importantly, he learned why humans fought the way they did. "We are not the strongest," Sergeant Morrison told him during a training session. "We are not the fastest. But we are the most stubborn. We refuse to quit. That is what makes us dangerous." Lothar absorbed these lessons like a sponge. He watched human Marines train in simulated devourer boarding actions, watched them practice fighting in zero gravity and toxic atmospheres, in conditions that would kill most species. "Do you ever fear death?" he asked Morrison one day. The sergeant considered the question. "Every day. Fear keeps you sharp, but we do not let it stop us, because there are things worse than dying." "Like what?" "Like letting the people you love die because you were too afraid to act." Lothar understood then. These humans carried fear and exhaustion and grief, but they carried something else too. Purpose. The absolute certainty that what they were doing mattered. He wanted to learn that certainty. The fleet moved into devourer space like a spear thrust into a beast's heart. They fought 17 battles in 3 weeks. Each engagement was brutal. Each victory cost lives, but they kept moving forward. Commodore Okonkwo's tactical doctrine became the fleet standard. Hit hard, hit fast, and never stop moving. The Devourers expected enemies to stop and consolidate after victories. Humans did not. They simply moved to the next target. During a battle near the 7th way station, Lothar experienced his first real combat. The Relentless had boarded a Devourer cruiser to plant demolition charges. Elthar was part of the assault team. The interior of the Devourer ship was nightmare made real, organic corridors that pulsed with alien life. The smell of decay and chemical processes, and everywhere the Devourer soldiers waiting. "Contact front," a Marine shouted. 3 Devourer soldiers charged down the corridor. Lothar froze for a moment, fear overwhelming him. Then Sergeant Morrison pushed past him, firing short, controlled bursts. "Move, Lothar! Fight or die." Something in Lothar snapped. Not broke. Snapped into place. He raised his plasma rifle and fired. His second shot hit a Devourer in its central mass. The creature fell. "Good shot," Morrison yelled. "Keep moving." They fought through 3 decks of Devourer ship. Ilthar learned that combat was nothing like training. It was chaos and terror and making decisions with no time to think. But he also learned that he could do it. Could fight. Could survive. When the demolition charges detonated and the team evacuated, Lothar found himself sitting in the shuttle bay, hands shaking. Commodore Okonkwo sat down next to him. "First combat is always the worst," she said quietly. "I was afraid," Lothar admitted. "Good. Fear means you understand the danger. But you fought anyway. That is courage." She looked at him with respect. "You did well today, Lothar." He felt something warm in his chest. Pride. He had proven himself to these warriors from the Death World. As the fleet pushed deeper into enemy territory, more hierarchy warriors began to volunteer. Not many. Most hierarchy species were not built for this kind of warfare. But a few hundred individuals from various worlds joined human ships, learning human tactics, fighting alongside human marines. They called themselves the Lost Legion, warriors without homeworlds, soldiers without armies, survivors who had lost everything and found purpose in human stubbornness. Dr. Tanaka's estimates proved accurate. After 3 weeks of fighting, the fleet detected the Devourer hive world. It was not a planet. It was a construct, something artificial the size of a gas giant, covered in organic and mechanical structures. Sensors showed thousands of Devourer ships docked to its surface, maybe tens of thousands. The fleet held position just outside the system, hidden behind a dead moon. Admiral Kovac called a conference with all ship commanders. The holographic meeting showed hundreds of faces, human and alien, young and old, all marked by war. "You can all see what we are facing," Kovac said, gesturing to the tactical display. "The enemy has at least 4,000 ships defending their hive. We have 463. Silence. I will not lie to you. Most of us will not survive the coming battle. The odds are not in our favor, but if we do not stop them here at their source, this war will consume the galaxy." He looked at each face in turn. "I am giving every commander a choice. You can turn back now. No shame, no judgment. But if you stay, we attack in 18 hours. We go in with everything we have. We fight until the hive is destroyed or we are." No one spoke for a long moment. Then Commodore Okonkwo stood. "The Relentless stands with you, Admiral." "The Indomitable's fury remains," said Captain Park. One by one, every commander pledged to stay. Human and alien alike. Lothar watched this from the Marine ready room aboard the Relentless. Around him, human Marines prepared their equipment with practiced efficiency, checking weapons, sealing armor, writing final messages to loved ones. Sergeant Morrison noticed him watching. "Scared?" the sergeant asked. "Terrified," Lothar admitted. Morrison grinned. "Good, me too. But we go anyway. That is what it means to be a warrior." Lothar checked his own weapon, a human plasma rifle modified for his four-armed grip. He had painted his family's symbol on the stock. A reminder of why he was here. "Sergeant Morrison," he said quietly, "if I do not survive tomorrow, will you tell my people's ambassador something?" "Sure, kid, what?" "Tell them that I learned honor from humans. I learned that there are causes worth dying for. And I learned that even from the deadest of worlds, the strongest spirits can grow." Morrison clasped his shoulder. "I will tell them. But you are going to survive, Lothar, because I am not done teaching you yet." Lothar smiled despite his fear. The fleet spent the next 18 hours preparing. Final maintenance, final briefings, final messages home. Admiral Kovac recorded his own message to Earth, to his daughter whom he had not seen in 7 months, to his grandchildren who he might never meet. "I do not know if we will survive tomorrow," he said to the camera. "But I know we will fight, and I know that whatever happens, humanity will endure. Because that is what we do. We endure." He paused. "I am proud to have led these warriors, every human who served, every alien who stood with us. We are not perfect. We are not heroes. We are just people trying to stop something terrible, trying to protect the future." He ended the recording and looked out at the stars, at the monstrous hive world waiting in the darkness. "Tomorrow," he whispered. "Tomorrow we end this." The fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Abyss sector. 463 ships against a horror that defied comprehension. The Devourer hive world hung in space like a dark god. It was massive beyond measure, its surface covered in organic towers and mechanical structures. Thousands of Devourer ships moved around it in patterns too complex to track, and at its center something pulsed with sickly light. Admiral Kovac stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and felt the weight of every decision that had led to this moment. "All ships, battle formation," he ordered. His voice was calm, steady, the voice of a man who had accepted his fate. "We have one objective: destroy the hive. Everything else is secondary." Across the fleet, crews prepared for battle. Marines checked weapons for the last time. Engineers reinforced shield generators. Medical teams prepared for casualties they knew would be overwhelming. On the Relentless, Commodore Okonkwo gathered her officers. "We are going to lead the boarding assault on the hive core," she said. "Intelligence suggests there is a central control structure deep inside. If we can destroy it, the entire hive might collapse." Her tactical officer looked at the sensor readings. "Ma'am, that is a suicide mission." "Yes," Okonkwo agreed simply. "But someone has to do it. And we are the best boarding team in the fleet." Lothar stood with Sergeant Morrison and the other Marines. His four hands trembled slightly as he checked his equipment. "Stay close to me," Morrison told him. "Do exactly what I do." And Lothar, "If it looks like we will not make it out, you find a way to survive. Tell people what happened here. That matters." Lothar nodded, not trusting his voice. Admiral Kovac opened a fleet-wide channel. Every human and alien warrior listened. "We stand at the edge of extinction," he said quietly. "Not just our extinction. The extinction of everything we know. Everyone we love. The Devourers do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They consume. That is all they know." He paused, looking out at his fleet. Ships named for human virtues. Indomitable. Relentless. Defiant. Vengeance. Hope. The hierarchy asked for help from Deathworlders. They did not understand what that meant. But today we will show them. We will show the galaxy. We are humanity. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day, and we survived. We learned to fight. We learned to endure. We learned that survival means being willing to do whatever is necessary. His voice grew harder. Today we do what is necessary. We go into that hive and we burn it from existence. Some of us will not return. Many of us will not return. But those who do will carry the memory of this day. The day humanity said no. No to extinction, no to fear, no to giving up. He looked directly into the camera. For Earth. For all the worlds that depend on us. For the future, attack with everything we have. Show them what fire means. The fleet surged forward. The Devourer ships reacted immediately. Thousands of enemy vessels moved to intercept. The space between the fleet and the hive became filled with weapons fire. Kovac watched the tactical display as red icons swarmed his ships. All batteries fire at will. Nuclear weapons free. Railguns to maximum output. The Indomitable shuddered as its main guns opened fire. Railgun rounds traveling at significant fractions of light speed tore through Devourer hulls. Nuclear missiles detonated in chains, consuming dozens of enemy ships at once. But for every Devourer destroyed, more came. "Sir, shields at 60%, his operations officer reported. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 9. Seal the breaches. Maintain forward momentum." Kovac's voice never wavered. "We do not stop. We do not slow down." Ships died around him. The destroyer EDF Courage took a gravity beam hit and simply ceased to exist. The frigate Northern Wind was swarmed by Devourer boarding craft and self-destructed rather than be consumed. The hierarchy cruiser, Star of Hope, tried to protect a damaged human battleship and was torn apart, but the fleet kept moving forward. Commodore, Okonkwo's assault group broke through the Devourer defensive line. 10 ships, 50 Marines in each, 500 warriors who would try to reach the hive core. All ships follow the relentless, Okonkwo ordered. "We punch through and do not stop until we reach the core." The relentless led the charge directly at the hive's surface. Devourer weapons fire carved glowing wounds in its hull. The ship shook and screamed, but it did not stop. "Brace for impact," Okonkwo shouted. The relentless crashed through the hive's outer shell and into the interior. The other assault ships followed. Most made it. 3 were destroyed in the entry. Inside the hive, the Marine teams deployed. Lothar found himself running through corridors that were more organic than mechanical. The walls pulsed. The air was toxic. Gravity shifted unpredictably. "Contact," someone shouted. Devourer soldiers poured from side passages. The battle became close and brutal. Marines fired at point-blank range, used knives when ammunition ran out, fought with fists when weapons were lost. Thar stayed close to Morrison, firing his plasma rifle in short bursts. A Devourer soldier charged him. He dodged its blade arm and fired into its center mass. It fell, another came. He used 2 hands to steady his rifle and 2 hands to draw his combat knife. He shot one Devourer and stabbed another. "Good kid," Morrison yelled. "Keep fighting." The Marines pushed deeper into the hive. Every meter was paid for in blood. Human and alien warriors fell, but they kept moving forward. Sergeant Morrison took a blade through the chest. He looked at Lothar with fading eyes. "Tell them," Morrison gasped. "Tell them we fought well." Then he was gone. Lothar felt something break inside him, but he did not stop. He picked up Morrison's rifle and kept fighting. For his family. For Morrison. For every being these monsters had consumed. Outside, the battle raged. The human fleet was being torn apart. Half the ships were gone. The survivors were all damaged. but they kept fighting. Admiral Kovac watched his fleet die around him. The Indomitable had taken dozens of hits. Half its weapons were offline. Fires burned on multiple decks, but still it fought. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Commodore Okonkwo," his communication officer said. Okonkwo's face appeared on screen. She was bleeding from a head wound. Her armor was scorched. "Admiral, we have reached the core. It is massive. Some kind of biological computer coordinating all Devourer operations. We are planting charges now. How long do you need?" Kovac asked. 10 minutes to place the charges, then 5 minutes to get clear." Kovac looked at his tactical display. The Indomitable would not last 10 minutes. "You will have your time, Commodore. Complete the mission." "Sir." "That is an order, Sarah," Kovac said quietly, using her first name. "Finish it. That is all that matters." He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "All power to forward shields. All remaining ships form on the Indomitable. We hold the line for 15 minutes. Whatever it takes." The remaining ships rallied to him. 37 human vessels and 12 hierarchy ships. Against thousands of Devourers, they fought like cornered animals. Like warriors who knew they were dying but refused to fall. The Indomitable's bridge was hit. Half the crew was killed instantly, but Kovac survived, and as long as he lived, the ship fought. Inside the hive core, Okonkwo and her Marines placed the final charges. Quantum destabilizers that would tear the core apart at the molecular level. "Charges set," she reported. "All teams evacuate now." The Marines ran. Lothar carried the body of a fallen comrade, refusing to leave anyone behind. They fought through more Devourer soldiers. Lost more warriors. By the time they reached the extraction point, only 73 Marines remained from the original 500. Okonkwo counted them as they boarded the surviving shuttles. "So few, so terribly few." "Ma'am, we are not going to make it out in time," her pilot said. "The charges will detonate in 3 minutes. We need 5 to clear the blast radius." Okonkwo looked at her surviving warriors. Lothar, who held Morrison's dog tags. At young Private Kim, barely 20 years old. At Commander Telesh, a hierarchy volunteer who had fought beside them every step. "Get them out," she ordered the pilot. "Best speed." "What about you, ma'am?" "I am going back. Someone needs to make sure those charges detonate." She unsealed her helmet. "Go, that is an order." Lothar lunged forward. "Commodore, no." "You cannot." "I can and I will," Okonkwo said firmly. She looked at him with gentle eyes. "Someone has to make sure the job is done, Lothar, and these warriors need a leader to get them home. That is you now. Tell them what we did here. Make sure they remember." She pushed him back into the shuttle and sealed the door. The shuttles launched. Okonkwo watched them go, then turned and ran back toward the core. She had lied. The charges did not need supervision, but the shuttles needed time, and she could buy them that by drawing Devourer soldiers away from the escape route. She fought alone through the dying hive, killed Devourer soldiers with her last ammunition, used her knife when that ran out, used her hands when even the knife was lost. When the charges detonated, Commodore Sarah Okonkwo died destroying the heart of humanity's greatest enemy. The hive core exploded. The blast tore through the massive structure. Without its coordinating intelligence, the Devourer ships went dormant. They simply stopped fighting. Admiral Kovac saw it happen, saw the hive die, saw the enemy ships go dark. "All ships, cease fire," he ordered. His voice was barely a whisper. The silence after battle was terrible. The fleet hung in space, broken and bleeding. Of the 463 ships that had attacked, 47 survived. 47 ships from a fleet that had come to end extinction. But they had won. Kovac looked at the list of ships lost, saw the Relentless on that list, saw Okonkwo's name marked as killed in action. "Get me the casualty reports," he said quietly. The numbers were staggering. 300,000 dead, another 100,000 wounded, an entire generation of warriors gone. But the Devourers were finished. Without the hive, the remaining ships would slowly die. The threat was ended. Lothar sat in the shuttle as it returned to the surviving fleet. He held Morrison's dog tags in one hand and Okonkwo's combat knife in the other. Around him, the surviving Marines were silent. They had won. But the cost was beyond measure. 3 months later, Earth held a memorial service, the largest in human history. On the Great Memorial Wall in Geneva, names were carved. 300,000 human names, and beside them the names of the 5,000 hierarchy warriors who had died fighting alongside humanity. High Arbiter Velcross attended in person. He stood before the wall with tears in his 4 eyes. "We asked for help from Deathworlders," he said to the assembled crowd. "We did not understand what that meant. We did not understand the price you would pay, the sacrifices you would make." He placed one hand on the memorial wall. "These warriors saved the galaxy. Human and alien alike, they stood against extinction and refused to yield. The hierarchy owes an eternal debt. We will never forget." Admiral Kovac stood beside him. The admiral was gray now, aged by war and grief. He looked at the names and saw faces, friends, comrades, warriors who had trusted him to lead them. "They did what needed to be done," Kovac said quietly. "They answered when others called for help. They fought when others had given up. They died so others could live." He looked at Velcross. "The hierarchy wanted Deathworlders. You got them. But remember this, High Arbiter. We did not fight because we are violent. We fought because genocide offended us. Because letting innocents die was unacceptable. We are capable of terrible things, yes. But we use that capability only to protect." He stepped closer to the memorial wall. "Never again ask humanity to fight your wars. But if extinction comes, if innocent lives are threatened, we will be there. Because that is who we are. That is what it means to be human." Velcross nodded slowly. "We understand now, and we are grateful." The service concluded with a moment of silence. Millions of humans and aliens stood together, remembering those who had fallen. In a small ceremony afterward, Lothar was formally recognized for his service. He received commendations from both Earth and the hierarchy. But the honor that mattered most to him was being made an honorary human Marine. Morrison would be proud, an old Marine told him, pinning the insignia to his uniform. Lothar touched the symbol with reverence. "I will spend my life honoring what humans taught me. Courage, sacrifice, the refusal to surrender." He looked up at Earth hanging in the sky above. "I will tell my people and all hierarchy species what I learned from Deathworlders. That the strongest warriors are not those who love war, but those who fight despite hating it. That true strength is protecting others even at cost to yourself." Years passed. The galaxy rebuilt. Humanity was granted full council membership and the title of protectors. Human military doctrine became required study for all hierarchy defense forces, and slowly, carefully, the species that had once feared humans began to understand them. They were not monsters. They were not mindless warriors. They were survivors from a deadly world who had learned that life was precious because they had fought so hard to keep it. In a colony classroom on the edge of known space, a human child and a hierarchy youngling sat together studying history. They learned about the Devourer War, about the sacrifice, about the warriors who had saved them all. Were humans always heroes? The hierarchy child asked their teacher. The teacher, a veteran who had served under Admiral Kovac, smiled sadly. "No, humans are not heroes. They are just people. But when the galaxy called for help, when extinction came to our door, they answered. They answered in fire, and that fire burned away the darkness." The teacher looked out the window at the peaceful colony, at the ships moving between worlds, at the future those warriors had died to protect. We remember them, human and alien alike. We remember that peace is not free, that survival requires sacrifice, and we remember that even from the deadliest world the noblest spirits can grow. On Earth, in the memorial garden, Admiral Kovac sat beneath a tree planted in Okonkwo's honor. He was old now, his fighting days long past, but he came here often, to sit with the memories of those who had fallen. "We did it, Sarah," he whispered to the wind. "The galaxy is safe. The Devourers are gone. And humanity showed them what we are capable of, not just in war but in sacrifice." And he stood slowly, bones creaking. "Rest well, warriors. Your watch is ended. Ours continues." As he walked away, the sun set on Earth, painting the sky in shades of fire, beautiful and terrible, like the species that called this deadly world home. They had begged for help, and the Deathworlders had answered. In fire, in sacrifice, in the absolute refusal to let extinction win. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, not just the ability to fight, but the will to fight for others, to stand against the darkness no matter the cost. And the galaxy would never forget.